Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going back to the absolute fundamentals of communication. We're unpacking the mechanics of procedure texts. And whether you realize it or not, these texts completely govern our daily lives. They guide us through literally everything, from fixing a broken gadget to cooking a nice dinner. So let's dive right into this structured comparison and decode how we actually communicate instructions.
So think about it. What exactly are examples of manuals and recipes? And maybe more importantly, what is their generic structure? These are the core questions we're going to answer today. We interact with these texts constantly, right? Like when we buy a new phone or try out a new dish. But how often do we actually stop to analyze how they're built? By understanding their framework, we can dramatically improve how we explain things to others. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the procedure text blueprint. Second, generic structure and features. Third, manuals versus recipes. Fourth, the core comparison. And finally, overcoming writing difficulties. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the procedure text blueprint. At its core, a procedure text is just a guide. It explains how to do, make, use, or operate something through a series of strictly ordered steps. And the absolutely crucial phrase here is to achieve a successful outcome. Whether it's a medical prescription telling you how often to take your medicine or a technical guide on how a water pump works, these are the ultimate instruction manuals that keep us safe and make sure we actually reach our end goal.
Moving right along to Section 2, generic structure and features.
Think of every procedure text as being built on three main pillars. First up, we have the goal. This is usually your title, stating exactly what we're trying to achieve, like how to turn on a computer. Second, we have the materials. Now, this could be ingredients for a meal or tools for a construction job. Interestingly enough, this section is actually optional. Some basic operational manuals don't even need a materials list. And finally, we have the steps, the specific, ordered actions you absolutely must follow to reach that goal. But the real secret sauce lies in how these texts are written. They rely incredibly heavily on imperatives. Command verbs like turn on, add, or press. They use action verbs like pour or stir, and the whole thing is glued together by sequence connectors like first, next, and finally. They operate in the simple present tense and use adverbs of manner and time to give us those really specific details, like stir slowly for 5 minutes. This specific language is exactly what makes the text function as an instruction, rather than just a story. Okay, Section 3, manuals versus recipes. Let's think about manuals for a second. They are highly technical. They're designed for operating equipment safely and efficiently. The tone is rigid, direct. But then look at recipes. These are culinary instructions. The focus isn't just safety, it's achieving a very specific taste or texture. The tone is descriptive, sensory, and honestly, just much more everyday. It is literally the difference between telling someone to initialize the operating system versus stir the mixture until it becomes a warm, light brown.
Let's break this down even further in Section 4. The core comparison. When you put them side by side in a matrix like this, the distinctions are just crystal clear. Manuals exist so you don't break your expensive new device or hurt yourself, while recipes exist so your meal is actually delicious. The language completely shifts from highly technical and formal to everyday and descriptive. The audience goes from professionals or users looking to safely get a job done to culinary enthusiasts looking for a great experience. And the level of detail transitions from strict technical specifications to nuanced sensory cooking steps.
Take a concrete example, like how to turn on a laptop or how to play Mobile Legends for beginners. The language here is uncompromisingly direct. Plug in the charger, press the power button, download and install, tap start to enter a match. There is literally zero room for interpretation. The goal is strict compliance to make sure the system operates exactly as intended. On the flip side, with something like how to make a vegetable salad with peanut sauce or a simple creamy coffee milk, the whole vibe changes. We see phrases like whisk the mixture rigorously, add more water to get the consistency of peanut sauce to your liking, and serve warm or cool. It's sensory, it's flexible, and it invites the user to actually engage with the materials to create an experience, not just execute a robotic command. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, overcoming writing difficulties.
Now, even though this blueprint seems pretty straightforward, students actually really struggle to write them.
There's this fascinating study from the Juliet Journal, that's the Journal of Language, Literature, and English Teaching, that analyzed 9th grade students to find out exactly where they hit roadblocks when writing procedure texts. The researchers looked at social function, text structure, topic, and language features.
And the data they uncovered is honestly kind of striking. You'd probably think the hardest part is organizing the steps, right? Well, actually, scratch that. A massive 70% of students reported their absolute biggest difficulty was vocabulary. 59% struggled with language features overall, whereas only 44% had trouble with the actual content or structure. So the structural blueprint isn't really the main issue. The struggle is finding the precise words to execute it.
The study's conclusion really hits the nail on the head. They wrote, "The dominant factor of students' writing difficulties in procedure text was language features, like vocabulary and grammar. This proves that mastering those specific linguistic tools we covered earlier, the imperatives, the action verbs, those sequence connectors, that is the ultimate key to solving this writing problem. Because without the right vocabulary, even the best planned manual or recipe just completely falls apart."
So you've seen the underlying architecture, you know the exact differences between a rigid manual and a sensory recipe, and you know that precise vocabulary is the real secret to making the whole thing work. So I leave you with this question: now that you know the blueprint, how are you going to structure your next set of instructions? Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and keep learning.